I met with numerous foreign leaders. Go ahead.
Sir, this next order relates to the definition of birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment of the United States.
Yeah, that's a good one. Birthright. That's a big one.
What about that one in the course? That one is likely to be found.
Could be. We think we have good grounds, but you could be right. I mean, you'll find out. It's ridiculous. We're the only country in the world that does this with birthright, as you know. And it's just absolutely ridiculous, but we'll see. We think we have very good grounds.
Sir,
people have wanted to do this for decades.
Hello listeners, our today's topic is on Trump versus birthright citizenship. So recently there's a hype. Donald Trump has recently announced that he wants to end birthright citizenship in the United States. This means that children born on American soil to parents who are not U.S. citizens or on temporary visas, like the H-1B visa, would no longer get automatic citizenship like before. And this has huge implications for thousands of families on H-1B visas, especially those who rely on their U.S.-born children's citizenship as part of their longer-term plans to stay in America. To understand why this is such a big deal, let's first clearly understand exactly what the H-1B visa is. See, back in 1990, the U.S. government created the H-1B program to allow American companies to hire workers with specialized skills from around the world. These workers are usually in the fields of technology, engineering, and healthcare. Every year, the government makes a limited number of these visas available, 65,000 for all applicants, plus an extra 20,000 for those who have advanced degrees from U.S. universities. However, the demand for these visas is so high that they are usually awarded through a lottery system. And to give you some numbers, in 2023 alone, there were around 86,000 approvals across different channels for this visa. But recently, Donald Trump's stand on H-1B visas has completely shifted. During his previous term as president, he was quite vocally strict about it. He followed a Buy American, Hire American approach that made it harder for companies to sponsor immigrants. But, in some of his latest remarks, he has talked about letting more competent people come to America, even if they train and help others. Listen to what he said. "I also like very competent people coming into our country, even if that involves them training and helping other people. I'm not just talking about engineers, I'm talking about people at all levels." And in contrast, during Joe Biden's term as president, his administration introduced changes that made the program more modern and added oversight to reduce abuse. And by abuse in this context, I'm talking about how some large IT consulting firms have been accused of gaming the lottery system. They do this by sending in far more applications than the number of workers they truly need. If a consulting firm thinks it needs 2,000 new staff members and the chance of winning a visa in the lottery is only 1 in 3, it might put in 6,000 applications, hoping that around a third of those will be picked. This might be good for these big firms, but it can crowd out smaller companies that genuinely need niche skills or specific specialists. Over 10 years, firms like Cognizant, Infosys, and Tata Consultancy Services managed to get about 350,000 H-1B approvals by using this tactic. When we look at usage trends in the H-1B program, we see two different stories unfolding. American tech companies like Amazon, Meta previously Facebook, and Google have been asking for more H-1B workers for several years. Amazon alone saw its visa applications increase by 478% after 2016. However, in 2024, things changed a bit. Companies like Amazon, Google, and Microsoft saw their approvals go down. For instance, Amazon's approvals dropped from over 11,000 in 2023 to around 9,265 in 2024. On the other hand, Indian firms that used to depend heavily on H-1B visas have slowed down their use of the program quite a lot. Infosys, TCS, and Wipro have all seen big drops, with TCS reducing its visa usage by 75% and Wipro by 69% over the past decade. One reason is that these companies are now hiring more people locally in the United States or finding other ways to run their projects. Despite these changing trends, the share of Indian nationals in the H-1B program is still huge. In 2023, about 72% of H-1B visas went to people from India, which meant around 279,000 approvals. For people unable to get a visa, many ended up using their skills at home in India. In fact, some studies show that those who stayed in India helped their country's tech sector grow to the point that India eventually surpassed the United States in software exports by 2005. This is sometimes referred to as a brain gain, because while the US did gain skilled workers, India also benefited when large numbers of talented individuals stayed back or later returned with new skills and networks. There is also an important link between H-1B visas and innovation. In the US, immigrants make up only about 14% of the workforce, yet they account for nearly a quarter of all patents. In Silicon Valley, you'll find that 56% of STEM workers are foreign-born, and among software engineers, that figure is as high as 70%. A fascinating statistic is that almost half of America's billion-dollar startups, such as SpaceX, Palantir, and Uber, have at least one immigrant founder. This shows that foreign talent does a lot to drive new ideas and industries forward. Research on the program's impact suggests that the H-1B system generally helps the U.S. economy. Studies show it has boosted overall incomes by hundreds of millions of dollars. One piece of research by Gaurav Khanna at the Center for Global Development found that every additional migrant in the H-1B program increased U.S. worker incomes by about $1,345, leading to a large combined rise in GDP across both the U.S. and India. Another study found that if American companies are turned down for an H-1B visa, they don't usually just hire more Americans. Instead, they move some of their operations or research overseas. This means visa restrictions can end up hurting America's job market in the long run because it might encourage companies to shift even more work abroad. Critics, however, worry that too many foreign workers might replace or lower wages for American workers. Interestingly, the research does not strongly support these fears. In some cases, wages for U.S. computer scientists might have been slightly higher without foreign competition, but overall, the tech sector's expansion seems to have helped workers in related fields and kept the American economy more competitive. There have also been studies of places with large immigration surges showing that local wages generally do not suffer, and per capita income can rise in areas where there is more immigration. Another area researchers look at is entrepreneurship. It turns out that immigrants start new businesses at an even higher rate than people born in the U.S., and they create both small and large companies that often pay slightly higher wages. This further fuels the country's economic growth. Meanwhile, when immigrants from places like India come to America to study or work, they can return home eventually and bring valuable knowledge and connections back with them, boosting India's tech scene. Now, with Donald Trump's renewed plan to end birthright citizenship, H-1B families fear losing a key route to creating permanent lives in the United States. Many are stuck in extremely long waiting lines for green cards, up to 100 years in some cases, and having a child who is automatically a citizen has always been part of the plan for stability. Removing this right could make the H-1B pathway less appealing or manageable for thousands of skilled workers, especially when combined with tighter visa rules. All this shows how complicated the H-1B story has become. On the one hand, there is a clear link between welcoming foreign talent and maintaining America's role as a global leader in technology and innovation. On the other, there is a growing concern among some people that more immigration might come at a cost to American workers or could be abused by big outsourcing firms. The truth seems to be more nuanced, with much research suggesting that the program has been a net positive for the United States, while also bringing benefits to India and other countries that supply workers. At the end of the day, the debate over H-1B visas has become even more heated because Donald Trump announced the ending of birthright citizenship. That is why many experts think the conversation about who gets to come to America, who gets to stay, and how that impacts the economy will only get louder in the months and years ahead. The H-1B program sits right at the center of this debate, balancing America's hunger for talent with the concerns some people have about jobs, wages, and immigration. For now, the story continues to unfold, and whichever direction it takes, it is bound to shape the future of the technology industry, the fortunes of many immigrant families, and the American economy as a whole.